There is no word for retirement in the Okinawan language. I want you to sit with that for a moment. An entire culture spanning centuries never developed a word for the concept of stopping, of becoming unnecessary, of spending your remaining years without a role, without a function, without a reason to set your alarm. Instead, we have a word that has no exact translation in English. Ikigai. It roughly means the reason you wake up in the morning, not your job, not your salary, not your title. The thing that makes you get out of bed when no one is paying you and no one is watching. When the Okinawa Centenarian Study asked 224 people aged 100 and older to describe their daily lives, every single one of them could articulate their ikigai without hesitation. A 102-year-old man said it was his two prize bowls. He visited them every day. A 104-year-old woman said it was holding her great-great-great-granddaughter. A 97-year-old fisherman said it was bringing fish to his village 3 times a week. In 2022, researchers at Harvard examined over 13,000 Americans aged 50 and older and measured their sense of purpose in life. They followed them for 8 years. The group with the highest sense of purpose had a 15.2% mortality rate. The group with the lowest had 36.5%. The researchers calculated that strong purpose is 1.8 times more protective against death than not smoking. More protective than not smoking. And it costs absolutely nothing. 1 in 10 Americans takes antidepressants. Among women in their 40s and 50s, that number rises to 1 in 4. In 2021, an estimated 93.1 million older adults worldwide suffered from depressive disorders, a 136% increase from 1990. Depression is now the leading cause of disability on the planet. And what does the medical system offer? A pill, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor that blocks the reabsorption of a neurotransmitter in your brain, a chemical patch over a structural wound. A meta analysis from McMaster University examined 375,000 participants and found that common antidepressants increase all cause mortality risk by approximately 1/3. The drugs prescribed to help you live better may be making you die sooner. But here is the part nobody wants to talk about. The single greatest trigger for late life depression is not chemical, it is structural, it is retirement. A meta analysis of longitudinal studies found that involuntary retirement significantly increases the risk of depressive symptoms. The mechanism is not complicated. You spend 40 years with a schedule, a role, colleagues, responsibilities, deadlines, and a reason to get dressed in the morning. Then one day it stops. The structure vanishes. The social contact disappears. The sense of being needed evaporates, and nobody replaces it with anything. The Western model of retirement is a 20-year vacation with no purpose. The antidepressant industry exists, in large part, to medicate the emptiness that follows. In Okinawa, we never built that model. We never created a phase of life where you stop contributing. We never told our elders they were finished. And we never needed a $15 billion antidepressant industry to treat the consequences of telling people they are no longer useful. We had the ikigai instead. Western science took decades to measure what our grandmothers always knew. But when they finally measured it, the numbers were staggering. In 2008, Toshimasa Sone and colleagues published the Osaki cohort study. They followed 43,391 Japanese adults over 7 years and asked one simple question at baseline: do you have ikigai? The results, published in Psychosomatic Medicine, showed that those who reported having no sense of purpose had significantly higher all cause mortality than those who did, even after the researchers controlled for age, gender, education, BMI, smoking, alcohol, exercise, employment, perceived stress, and existing medical conditions. Strip away every other variable, and purpose alone predicted who lived and who died. Dan Bietner, after studying centenarians across all 5 blue zones, concluded that having a clear sense of purpose accounts for approximately 7 additional years of life expectancy. 7 years. Not from a drug, not from a surgery, from knowing why you are alive. In 2019, Ali Mujiang and colleagues at the University of Michigan published a study, JAMA Network Open, that examined 6,985 American adults over 50. Those with the lowest sense of purpose had more than double the mortality risk of those with the highest, even after adjusting for socio-demographic factors, health behaviors, and baseline health status. More than double. From a psychological variable that no doctor screens for and no pharmacy sells. Then in 2022, Eric Kim and colleagues at Harvard went further. They analyzed 13,159 participants from the Health and Retirement Study over 8 years. The group with the strongest sense of purpose had a mortality rate of 15.2%. The group with the weakest, 36.5%. That is a 46% reduction in mortality risk. The researchers found that this effect was 1.8 times more protective than not smoking and nearly twice as protective as regular physical activity. The mechanisms are both behavioral and biological. People with strong purpose are 24% less likely to become physically inactive, 33% less likely to develop sleep problems, 22% less likely to develop unhealthy body weight. They experience lower chronic cortisol, which means less inflammation, better immune function, and slower cellular aging. A 2025 study published in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry confirmed that purpose in life significantly reduces the risk of cognitive impairment, meaning ikigai does not just help you live longer, it helps you keep your mind while you do. 4 independent studies, 3 countries, over 75,000 participants combined. The conclusion is unanimous. Purpose is not a luxury. It is a survival mechanism. Ikigai in Okinawa is not something you discover during a weekend retreat. It is not a journaling exercise. It is not written on a vision board. It is built into the architecture of daily life so deeply that no one talks about it. The same way no one talks about breathing. A 96-year-old woman teaches her granddaughter to weave bashofu cloth every Tuesday and Thursday. That is her ikigai. A 101-year-old man tends a garden that feeds 3 neighboring families. That is his. A 93-year-old woman manages the finances and the meeting schedule of her moai. The same group of 5 women she has met with since she was 5 years old. She has held that role for 88 years. She has no intention of giving it up. These are not hobbies. These are roles, responsibilities, positions in a community that depends on them. The distinction matters because a hobby can be abandoned when you are tired. A role cannot. Someone is waiting for you. Someone needs what you provide. That obligation is the mechanism. It gets you out of bed on the mornings when nothing else would. And here is the most devastating piece of data in this entire video. Okinawa, the island that was once the longest lived place on Earth, is no longer the healthiest prefecture in Japan. It has fallen. The younger generation of Okinawans now has the highest obesity rate in the country, the highest rates of fast food consumption, some of the highest rates of diabetes and cardiovascular disease in Japan. What changed? Two things. They adopted the Western diet. American military bases brought fast food chains to the island after World War II, and they lost their ikigai. The young Okinawans work corporate jobs in Naha. They commute. They sit in offices. They retire at 65 and watch television. They stopped teaching. They stopped gardening. They stopped being needed. The diet and the purpose collapsed at the same time, and the longest lived population on Earth started dying at the same rate as everyone else. You do not find your ikigai by thinking about it. You find it by answering four questions honestly and then acting on the answers. What do I love doing? What am I good at? What does my community or family need from me? What can I contribute that no one else around me is contributing? Your ikigai sits where those answers overlap. It does not need to be grand. It does not need to be public. It does not need to make money. A 102-year-old man's ikigai was visiting two bulls every morning. The scale is irrelevant. The consistency is everything. Here is what most people get wrong. They confuse ikigai with career ambition. They think it has to be their job, their calling, their legacy. It does not. Most Okinawan centenarians found their ikigai in things that would never appear on a resume: cooking for a neighbor, teaching a grandchild to fish, maintaining a garden that feeds the street, organizing the weekly Moai meeting. Small things done daily with absolute commitment. The key word is daily. A purpose you visit on weekends is a hobby. A purpose you practice every single morning is an ikigai. The protective effect documented in every study, the 46% mortality reduction, the 7 extra years, the cognitive protection, comes from daily engagement, not occasional inspiration. If you are retired, this is urgent. Do not wait for purpose to find you. It will not. Volunteer somewhere this week. Teach something you know to someone younger. Start growing food. Even a single pot of herbs on a windowsill creates a living thing that needs you tomorrow morning if you are not yet retired. Start building your ikigai now. Do not make the mistake of assuming your job is your purpose. When the job disappears, the purpose must remain. Build something outside of work that someone depends on, a role that no employer controls, and no retirement date can cancel. Never fully stop. Reduce, transition, shift, but never stop. The Okinawan elders understood something that Western retirement culture refuses to accept. A body without purpose ages faster than a body with one. You cannot buy Ikigai on Amazon. You cannot download it from an app store. No doctor can write it on a prescription pad. No pharmaceutical company can synthesize it, patent it, and sell it to you for $40 a month. And yet it is more protective against death than not smoking, more protective than exercise, more protective than any antidepressant ever manufactured. Four major studies, over 75,000 participants. The data is not ambiguous. On our island, we never needed the science to tell us this. We watched our grandparents wake up every morning with somewhere to go, someone to see, something to do that mattered to someone other than themselves, and we watched them do it at 90, at 95, at 100, at 104. We watched them die with their purpose still intact, not in a hospital bed after years of decline, but in a garden, at a table, with their hands still useful and their minds still clear. The word ikigai has no English translation, but the feeling it describes is available to every human being on earth. It is waiting for you to build it. In the next video, I am going to show you why Okinawans never diet but never get fat. The $0 eating rule that makes calorie counting, macro tracking, and every weight loss program on the market completely obsolete. We have been doing it for 5 centuries. It takes 3 seconds to learn